Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to our educational session on trade finance hacks for SMEs. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Faraz bin Hilal, and I will be your host for the session today. Today, we are going to talk about some trade finance hacks for SMEs, and we will also have an expert speaker who will give us some useful tips on different trade finance products and how you can select the best product for you. We will also have a Q&A session towards the end, and I would request you can post your questions right now, or I'll let you know when you can start posting your questions. At the end of the sessions, we will also have a raffle draw that gives you a chance to win 3 Amazon gift vouchers worth AED 1000 each. So stick through the towards the end of the session. Our financial expert speaker for today's session is the head of GTB sales, Sayed Adnan. And I would recommend to close any background applications to have a smooth experience. Rest back and enjoy the session. Syed Adnan comes with a strong operational trade background with extensive banking experience spanning over 15 years, backed by business and sales expertise, product development, and commercialization in transaction banking. So let's welcome our speaker, Syed Adnan. Over to you, Adnan.
Thank you, Faraz, for the opening note and introduction. I would like to start by welcoming everyone who joined this webinar and participated. The idea behind Adeep arranging this webinar came when we realized some clients, especially the SME clients, either aren't aware of some trade products or how these products, which are offered by Adeep, can help and assist growth in their business. Hence, in today's webinar, I will take you all through some hacks of trade which can be helpful if applied or understood correctly. I'm sure this will be relevant for most of the audiences who are attending and participating in today's webinar. So let's move forward. Uh, Today, we will cover the following topics: uh, few risks and how these trade products can help them to, if not eliminate, mitigate those risks. Trade product offering by a deep, understanding the best available solution, working capital and trade finance solution, especially for a borrowing client by a deep. And then at the end, we'll be having the question and answer sessions where you can post your questions and I'll try to answer as much as possible. So let's move forward. Let's understand some risks. Every business inherits risks. Uh, Obviously, there are a lot of risks, but we have actually picked up few risks which can be relevant for SMEs. They can be country risk, they can be an importer risk, exporter risk, industry risk, foreign exchange risk, and transportation risk. I'll touch on these topics briefly. So, country risk, we have experienced and see, I have saw that certain customers, the SMEs especially, they are reluctant in engaging or going to a cross-border transaction where the buyer or the supplier is in high-risk country or the destination is in falls under a high-risk country. Are there any trade solutions or any product which can actually mitigate those risks? Yes, there are. You can, if you are a seller and the buyer is in high-risk country, we would encourage our customer to go and do trade under letter of credit. If the issuing bank is not a seller comfortable with, then you can ask for confirmation. Adib do add confirmation on most of the banks, and we can take those risks from the issuing bank as a confirming bank that payment is secured for the seller. So this is something which you need to discuss with your relationship manager, the trade advisory desk in Adib. Give us a call, drop us an email, and we'll help you out. So country risk is something which is very common, which we see in this part of the region. Then there are some importers risk for the exporter and exporter risk for the importer. As I said, importer, what can be the risk for as an exporter for the importer? Non-payment. Importers do not pay, becomes bankrupt, delays in payment. Obviously, there are products which can be helpful for a supplier to mitigate those delays in payment. Then, as an importer, they can be an exporter risk, short shipment. Goods are not being shipped as per the specification, less documentation. So these are certain risks. Again, there are trade products which can help my client who is an importer to eliminate those or at least mitigate those risks. Then there are some industry risks where seasonal goods are there, pricings are there. Then there are some commodities which are bound to have some fluctuations in pricing. You can lock those pricings if you deal under letter of credit. Foreign exchange risk, if you are dealing with a buyer or a seller in Europe and you're dealing in euros, dealing from UAE in AD, there are some currency exchange risks. So euro can go up or down. So you can hedge them, lock those pricing. There are solutions being offered. Then transportation risk which are associated with mode of transportation. If there is if the transportation involves land transport, storage facilities, delays in shipment. So these are more or less out of many risks, few risks which we have highlighted. And just to inform that there are trade products being offered by ADIB at large, which can actually mitigate and answers those risks which we have mentioned here. Or if there are other risks which a client, if he discuss with us, we may give them solutions that what trade products can be best suited for their particular transaction. So moving forward to the next slide, ADIB in general in SME space have two type of customers, like most of the banks, liability customers and borrowing customer who we have given financing facility. Liability customers are customers where banks have not given them lending facility or any financing facility. That can be either the customer do not qualifies for a lending facility, or a company itself has a policy that they don't borrow money from the bank. Either can be a position. Now, a customer who doesn't get qualified, like most of the bank, ADIB have certain criterias. If the customer qualifies those criteria, then we do offer borrowing limits to them. But if a customer is a non-borrowing, still there are some trade products which can actually help them in their business in a limited scope to excel in their business in their top line and bottom line of profits. So, like collection documents, if a customer is dealing with a not so familiar party as a buyer or as a supplier, we advise our customer rather than doing open account trading where you are at the mercy of either the buyer or the supplier. If you're doing an advance payment, then and you being a buyer, then you are at the mercy of the supplier to make a shipment. So it's better to deal under collection documents because it's a much secured way of doing business. How we do it, that can be explained when the customer comes and discuss with the trade advisory or the relationship manager. We do avalize sales bill discounting financing. That's a bit more detailed way of discussing how avalization can be discounted. But avalization in small is that if you are selling any commodity on credit basis, and the bank who is the exporter's bank undertakes to make a payment, not under an LC, but on an open account or under collection document, then those bills, instead of you being the seller, don't need to wait for that time. We can finance and pay you upfront because our risk will be on the bank who have avalized the bill. Same goes export LC. We have advising, confirming, handling, and financing, as I said earlier, in evaluation. Even in export LC, if the LC is a usance LC where the issuing bank agrees to pay on a certain later date, we can finance those LCs and pay you upfront, but that's post acceptance. Many queries we receive from our SME customers that can we finance an LC before shipment. Unfortunately, for liability clients, that is not a policy, or the options are not available. Reason being because pre-shipment financing means that we are taking a risk not on the LC but on that client, and that means that client has to be a borrowing customer for the before we can give a pre-shipment financing loans. Uh, Another question, a query which we normally receive from customers: can ADIB finance every LC in the world? Almost none bank in my, if I can recall, can finance every LCs in the world, because it depends on the bank who's issuing the LC or the confirming bank who's confirming the LC, how good that bank is. from which country it's been confirmed. So yes, we have a lot of options for confirming and discounting, which in Islamic we say financing and LC, but that depends on the issuing bank. We can't cover the entire banking sector in the world to finance. So for that, we will request all the customers to reach out to the trade advisor or the RM and send us their options, and we will discuss with them. Transferable LC is something which we receive very common, these queries. Transferable LCs are something where my customer, being an indenter or a middleman, uh, uh, combines the ultimate supplier and ultimate buyer together to perform a shipment. And his stake is the little margins or the profits which he takes out from the entire deal. So the buyer, the ultimate buyer, issues the transferable LC. My customer request Adib, and I will transfer that LC to the ultimate seller. Ultimate seller makes the shipment. We switch the invoice of my client and present it to the ultimate buyer's bank for the payment. Once the payment comes, my customer's commission is being credited in his account, and the second beneficiary payments, Adib transfer it to the second beneficiary's banks. This is one of the most secure way of doing business, and mostly buyers and sellers and even the middleman are more comfortable in doing such a transaction, subject to if the issuing bank, the buyers, the ultimate buyer banks, is okay in opening that transferability. Obviously, there are many terms and conditions. There are many structuring which has been involved behind it. It's not as simple. But then, if any customer engages into a transaction where the buyer is agreeing in opening a transferable LC, we would strongly recommend and suggest that you reach out to your relationship manager or the trade advisory desk in Adib, and we will help you in structuring, understanding, and finalizing the deal. Uh, 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 then there are certain type of liability customer who are having a requirement for issuance of an LC or an SBLC or a guarantee like labor guarantees, like they want to enter into a bid, but given they don't have a borrowing relationship, can the still issue these? Yes, but against 100% cash margin. As I said, because we don't have a financing facility of that client, we can't take a risk on them. So that can be 100% cash secured. Then there is another set of customers which are borrowing client. In addition to what we offer to a non-borrowing client, to borrowing client, we give them financing facility, as by their word it goes, borrowing facility. How a customer gets qualified, again, every bank has their own policy. We as Adib also have our own policy. In general, if you ask me, we see a customer should have at least 3 to 4 years of audited financials available, and these financials actually tells me how the business have grown over the last 4 years, how committed the customer is with his own business. Every year, the profits which he have earned, did he reinvested those capital back to his company? What are the conversion cycle? What are the buying and selling pattern? Who are the major buyers, major sellers? So these are some integral uh, uh, things which we look after the customer's financials, and based on that, if he qualifies for a borrowing relationship, then definitely Adib offers, which Adib do have a lot of borrowing customers, all these collection document financing, import invoice financing, document export sales side invoice financing, issuance of LC SBLC without 100% but a little lesser cash margin, partially or without any margins. It depends on the customer's business profile and the audit strength. Here, I would like to touch upon one query again. Most of the customer comes. Can Adib offer back-to-back transactions? Yes, Adib do offer back-to-back LC, but they are not for liability customers or non-borrowing customer. This type of product is offered generally to a borrowing customer. One of the misconception which customer normally have is that back to back is generally a very secure, because as a bank I have an export LC in my hand. No, there are many other risks which if we discuss I can explain it in more detail, that there are many risks which are still inherited by a bank. So that's why we need to see if a customer is having a borrowing relationship, and then we can offer this back to back letter of credit facility. But in general, to answer, yes, we do have, but for borrowing customer. Let's move forward. So, in the next slide, we'll be discussing what can be the best solution for any business, and what payment option he could select. Again, this depends on each business. Every business have its own specific requirement, has its own buying and selling pattern. There are certain customers who deal only with high risk countries. Again, their requirements for payment option would be very different than those customers who don't deal with high risk country and only deal with inland. That means within UAE. They don't do with cross border buyers and seller. So their payment options would be different. I'll just give you an example. If you are a seller somewhere as a retailer, and there are two type of customer who comes to you, and one customer asks you to give you an open credit and sell me some goods, and then there is another customer who gives you cash or check. Obviously your the bargaining power of those customers and you as a seller would be different. Your options of selecting a customer would be different. Your pricing quotation for both the customers should be different, because one customer is a cash customer, other one is a credit. Now there can be other options of opening you don't know this customer very well whom you are extending the open credit. You may ask for a letter of credit, an LC, a financial institution backing a payment obligation of that customer. So there can be many ways and many payment options, but it depends on the business. So it depends on the level of trust of a customer. Then it depends on buyer's credit worthiness, the bargaining power, as I've discussed, that based on the payment option, the bargaining power fluctuate. Then the regulations. If you are dealing with a country where you feel it's a high risk country and your payment might get stuck, you may ask for an LC, which can be confirmed by an A-rated bank. And at the end of the day, bank deals in documents. So if the documents are complied, the confirming bank makes the payment. So that is something which actually helps. Then come the financing requirement. It depends on the payment option, depends on the financing requirement. If it's a site LC or a usance LC, if it's a cash payment or an open credit payment. So this differs vastly because of the payment options you have in your business. Now we'll come to the last slide of our session. One of the most common questions which we come across, people asking us, what's the difference between Islamic banking and a conventional bank? Islamic banking and conventional bank, as far as the product offerings are concerned, are almost similar. You may see over here that for purchase finance, we offer LCs, IBC, import bill collection, invoice financing, which are open account credit. Then for sales side, we have receivable financing, export bill for collections, export LC financing. More or less for import and export, these are the same products which are being offered by a conventional bank for an SME. Uh, uh, what makes us different is that all these financing and all these trade products are being backed by a Islamic structure. We have Kuch Muraba, LPO Muraba, EBC, LME, Saku, Control, ICD, Jara. These are all structures which are being used as a tool to finance or handle your trade transaction. Now, let's first suppose if you have export LC financing, how do we finance for a customer? The structure can be used as ERC, exchange receivable commodity. This is an Islamic way of structuring a transaction. For a client, it may make no difference other than signing certain documents and doing a Sharia compliant structured financing mode. This is the most easy way to explain that the difference between Islamic bank, it's not something where the financing rate differs or the credit appetite differs. It's just that the product offering remains same, uh, 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 and the structures behind handling this is all Islamic. So we have Guts Muraba, LPO Muraba, LME Muraba. Can a customer choose any of these structures? No, and yes, it depends on the customer's business. So when a customer gets qualified for a borrowing relationship, we sit with the customer, the RM, the trade advisory. They said they understand customer's business. Every structure have its own unique characteristics. So we sit with the customer, understand his business, and whichever is best suited, we opt for that structure for this customer. So there might be a customer who deals under import. So LME can be used, LPO Muraba can be used if he is doing local goods Muraba with and without agency. So it's more detailed. So if a customer who do get qualified, we'll sit with him, we'll understand, and we'll explain him the structures and the rationale behind adopting that structure. So here we come to the end of the session, and now I will ask everyone to post your questions so that Faraz can highlight it to me. Thank you very much again, everyone, for participating and joining this webinar. And now I leave it on Faraz.
Thank you, Adnan, for the really informative session. And as Adnan mentioned, it is time for our Q&A. And I can see there are questions already coming in from our audience. So Adnan, first question from Niza is, what are Adib's measures to address the issue of maturity gap, the mismatch of the maturity of the assets and liabilities within the business in relation to the financing of SMEs?
If Thank you, Niza, for posting this question. I understand if I understand correctly, what your question is that how do we take the conversion cycle for a customer? It depends on their financials. So their buying, their inventory, and their receivables. These are being checked, and based on that, we come up with a conversion cycle, and that's been decided. Again, it's not a thumb rule that whatever the conversion cycle is being taken out will be given exactly the same tenor for financing to a customer. It depends because the conversion cycles are normally general. It's on average basis. So for certain customers, you might be selling those product on a higher tenor, and for certain customers, you are selling on a lower tenor. So we take out an average, and then it's a discussion which an RM, a trade advisory, and the customer has, and then we come up with the tenor.
Great, great, Adnan. Adnan, the next question is from Kunal, and he's asking, what is the impact of blockchain on trade finance?
It's basically on right now, fintech and blockchain and digitization is a reality. Nobody can deny that fact. Blockchain, we are still working. It's very in a very preliminary stage right now. There are certain banks who have successfully executed certain transactions, but in my opinion, personal opinion, the real impact of blockchain will only come when all the stakeholders in trade finance are on blockchain platform, not the banks itself. So there is no point in banks being on the platform of blockchain and exchanging the digital documentation, whereas there are other stakeholders like customs, shipping, and they are still manual. So until unless the entire ecosystem which is used in trade finance, the customs, the regulators, central bank, all the banks, commercial banks, the shipping industry, they are not on this platform. But we are moving ahead to that direction, and we see growth and development in that area fast. And definitely, it will be a game changer for sure.
Definitely, definitely. Adnan, next question is from Muhammad Umar Khan. He is asking, is it possible to do back-to-back transactions?
Umar, yes, as I explained in this session, yes, back-to-back transactions we do offer, but then again, given there are certain risks do involved in a back-to-back transaction, we as a bank has a policy that we will do it for a borrowing customer. Now that can be for a borrowing relationship, we have a very measured characteristic to verify if the customer do falls under the borrowing facility. But if a customer have only back-to-back requirement, there can be certain sweeteners which we can add in the proposal to underwriters to qualify. But then, if your question is that for a liability customers, do we offer back-to-back? Most of the UAE banks do not offer it. Likewise, Adib only offers to borrowing customer only.
Great, good to know this. Adnan, there's another question from Niza. She wants to know that what are the current best offers of Adib for the SMEs, especially the startups.
If you are, as I explained in my session, for the startups, there are some trade finance offerings which are based on services only, like LCs, collection documents. These are the things. Then we have a very exceptional suite of cash management, which can be used on digital platform, which can help in lowering the cost of any company. This is on the cash management side. As far as trade finance is concerned, again, if you are looking for a borrowing relationship, then unfortunately, till the time you don't, as a company, do not complete 3 years of your existence, the vintage in UAE, the presence, that will make us to see and realize how the business have grown before we can take a financing uh, option for that client. As a startup, there might be options like, as I discussed, a transferable LC. This is a service where you are not pitching in your own financing. There is a tool of buyer, the ultimate buyer, who issues the LC, and you just transfer it to the ultimate supplier and you take your commission. We can help bridge structure this transaction for you. And for that, you need to contact your relationship manager. But I would request that for that, once you have a conversation, the right conversation with your buyer and supplier, do inform the buyer that I need a transferable LC before I can make the shipment, and to the supplier that we will be giving you an LC as a payment, not because the seller might be expecting us an advance payment. This will not work. So make that conversation and then contact your relationship manager or a trade advisory desk, and we will help you definitely.
Yeah, I think the key is to get in touch with us so that we can customize a solution for you. Right.
Definitely.
So, Adnan, the next question comes from Samina. Her question is: are there any financing options for the free zone companies?
Definitely, if the customers do qualify for a borrowing relationship, LLC, inland free zone are same. It's the crux of the matter is that you get qualified for financing. And as I said, the benchmark to start with the conversation, the company should be present in UAE for 3 years at least, and having a sizable business and a sizable profit, which is being reinvested in the company again. But there can be some exceptions. I'm not saying that this is the rule of thumb, but this is the minimum criteria which are normally being looked into. Exceptions can be there. You may reach out to the bank and discuss and explore the options.
Great. Perfect. Adnan, next question is from Noor Ahmed. His question is: do I need an Adib account to start trading?
Noor, if you are asking, does Adib handle trade transaction for non-customer? For SME, my answer would be no, because of the KYC purpose. But then again, it's our appetite for handling non-customers or non-client trade transaction are very limited, and that too there's another department, our FI department, who looks into, and these are normally very large customer, very large financial institutions who are not our customers, and still we handle them. But for SME in general, I'm sorry, but for non-customers, we won't be able to give services for a pure reason, KYC. It's a regulatory and the policy requirement of the bank.
So you should become a customer, Adib customer. Okay, Adnan, thank you. And the next question comes from Mohammed Taki. His question is that the freight cost is increased from shipping lines in the recent past, which has resulted in the profit margin constraints and cancellation of trading contracts. Is there any pricing relaxation plan under consideration by Adib in that regard to minimize their profit gap?
Uh, Thank you, Taki, for posting this question. There is not a blanket answer for this. Obviously, every customer's requirement and every customer's need of reduction on pricing depends. Uh, if you are asking me that Adib is working on certain customers where their profit margins have shrunk, so likewise, if it's a financing customer, we are reducing our profit margin, then yes, we have done it in past. We have done it at Corona times, and we will do it in future also. It depends, because Adeep over here is we are not a banker who are lending money. Being a Islamic bank, we are partners to our customers' business. So if we see that customer is in need because of some pricing constraint, either not only in shipping line, if there is a government expenses which have increased and that have actually reduced the margins of my customer, then we do help the customer, and we do simultaneously reduce our own margins. This have happened in past. This will happen in future also, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, Adnan, the next question from the audience is that does Adib have a dedicated trade advisory desk for our SME clients?
Fortunately, out of few banks in the market right now in UAE, Adeep is one of the few banks which have a dedicated trade advisory desk. We have a team of trade experts. They are sitting in Sharjah, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, all across different three Emirates. Our RMs are quite well equipped, but obviously there are some trade expert transactions which RM might not be able to give an answer because RMs are more equipped on vanilla trade. But wherever there are structured trade or there are requirements where an expert is required, we have a dedicated advisory desk in all three Emirates, and they will help you out. You just need to contact your relationship manager, or you can give a call to your call center, and they will connect directly to the trade advisory desk for you.
Great. Next question, Adnan, is from Rashid Ali. He wants to know that what is the definition of sizable profit as per Adib?
There is no such yardstick. Obviously, it depends on certain industry. That depends on your business itself. Uh, uh, there's no such given answer to it. Uh, uh, I'll just give you an example, and this example cannot be measured as a reference point, but just an example. If a customer have 100 million dirham of turnover, his revenues are 100 million, and their expenses and everything goes up to 99 million. So for you, 1 million can be a sizable profit for the entire year, but in that industry, normally the margins are 3%. So that means your overheads are more because the industry trends are that you against 100 million you should be making 3 million as profit. So there are many aspects to be looked. It can be industry, it can be the region which you are working on. If you are working on a high risk country, then obviously risk increase the profit margins. If you are dealing with a developed nation, your profit margins would be lesser as compared you are dealing with a high risk country. So it's a holistic view which we look into it. It's not a yardstick that at least 1% should be a margin or 5%. Certain industry might be requiring a margin of 5% because you are dealing with high risk countries. You are dealing with a developed economy where the trading is mature, then the margins are bound to be wafer thin. But when we say sizable, we look on to the holistic. What are your overhead expenses? What is your banking cost, borrowing cost with other lenders? What is the capital investment you have? More importantly, even if you are making less margins, less profit into the entire 4 5 years of your business, how much have you reinvested or taken it out? So this again, it's a holistic. There is no such yes and no answers for financing, and every other bank in every market goes with the same process.
I agree. And it is better that you get in touch to talk with a specialist here at Adib, and he will help you out to customize a solution for you. Okay, so next question, Adnan from Jane Alam is that clients can use assignment of proceeds too, but clients are reluctant to accept. What are your views on this?
Assignment of proceed is again one of the tools. Thank you, Alam. It's a bit too technical right now for the SME forum, but assignment of proceeds are another way of doing trade transaction where the buyer is not opening a transferable LC, and you just as a middleman, you to convince the supplier, the ultimate supplier, you assign certain proceeds out of it. Now, why customers are reluctant? I'm assuming it's the supplier who is reluctant. Supplier needs a secure a way of doing business. Assignment of proceed means that as a bank, if my customer, who is the middleman, who receives an LC, let us suppose he's dealing from India, a buyer in India opens an LC for my customer over here. It's not a transferable LC. And the supplier in China, the ultimate supplier in China, wants a secured way of mode of payment option. Only then he will make a shipment. My customer gives an assignment of proceed to Chinese supplier. Chinese supplier says that I will not accept this AOP, assignment of proceed. Reason being because it's a guarantee by a bank for the payment, but that guarantee is subject to once the shipment happens, once everything according to the LC terms which Adib and the Indian party has. Chinese supplier doesn't have any site, and the AOP message on the top of it says, if the money comes to us, then we will pay you. So he's chopping off his hand and then again getting on the mercy of this middleman to perform, and then the payment comes. So I am assuming those are the challenges with which a middleman faces. But again, if a customer comes across with this exact same situation, come to us. We have solutions for that too. It may work out, and we have seen in past, out of 10, for 5 customers this did work out, because at the end the supplier needs a security, a confirmation, and that security and confirmation is something which we provide.
Great. Thank you, Adnan. Adnan, the next question is from Saad. He wants to know that are all the types of LGs, what are the different types of LGs that are available with Adib?
Like any bank in the market, we also have all types of LG. It may be bid bond, performance bond, payment bonds, all types of LCs. And as far as they are Sharia compliant, we are good to go. And again, Adib issues all types of LCs.
Another question coming from our audience is, our sales are made on credit. Does Adib have any product or solution to prepay or discount?
Definitely, again, it depends on whom you are selling with. First thing, this sales which you are seeing, if it's an open account, first of all, we don't do discounting. We do financing. We are Islamic bank. We don't discount an LC. We finance a receivable. So yes, it depends on, if you are a borrowing customer, then you have to be a financing customer for the bank. You are selling, let's suppose, to a trader A on credit basis. I may discount that. I may finance that transaction for you and prepay you, but my risk would be on you, not on the trader A. Reason being, because that's your sales to trader A. On maturity, if trader A doesn't pay back, I'm going to debit your account to settle my funds. But same example comes where you are selling your invoice, your sales to a larger party, to a bigger party, to a government of you in UAE, a department in government of UAE, or to a document where you are selling it to a smaller party, but you are requesting that smaller party to avalize this bill from a bank. That means that bank is undertaking. Then even if you are a non-borrowing customer, I can finance and pay upfront to you, and that can either be without recourse. That means if I'm not being paid on maturity, I will not come back to you. That's why even for a liability customer, we can finance it. For a borrowing customer, my recourse will be on you, because I am financing based on your request and on your risk. But for a liability customer, I would be financing on your request, but the risk I will be transferring it to that financial institution or to a big, large corporate or a government official where I have the appetite. So if you have certain things, do discuss with us, with your RM. Again, as I said, we can have solutions to it. But if you are a non-borrowing customer and you are selling it to a party, to a customer, Adib may not be able to finance it until unless you're not a borrowing customer for the bank.
Okay, we'll do two more questions, post which we will move to our raffle. So our next question again is from Mohammed Taki. Does Adib offer digital solution to trade products? How many collection points does Adib have at present for trade documents? Handling, assuming all transactions are getting handled at backend in Abu Dhabi team, it really impacts the TAT and causing transactional delays as comparing to submitting transactions to other Islamic or conventional bank trade counters.
Uh, I think Mohammed Takiev earlier also made a question. So to answer his this specific question, yes, we have digital solutions to it, and right now our flagship online platform Adib Direct, you can have all the digital solutions of trade finance over there. As far as Adid trade operations in Abu Dhabi is concerned, then yes, it's been centralized in Abu Dhabi. But then again, we have ways how to counter the turnaround time for our customers. We have customers whose requirements are same day collection handling. We do it that for those customers. We have customers LC request same day. It's happening. It's digital. Where physical documents are required, yes, our turnaround time normally is T plus one. But then again, there are certain customer need same day. We do it same day as well.
Great. Last question for the day from Ziad. He's asking what is the cash margin amount of bid bond LG?
Ziad, it depends on your status with the bank. If you are a borrowing customer, then in general, as a company, you would be knowing that when we are giving you a facility offer letter, that for your margins, for your products, LGs, LCs, what type of margins you need to keep. So for a borrowing customer, we have customers from 10% up to 80%. So it depends on your business profile. So again, there is no yardstick to say. But if you are a non-borrowing customer for the bank, given the fact that we can't take a risk on you, or on your company as such because we don't understand or have not learned about your business. For that reason, we take 100% cash margin. And if it's a cross currency, we might go a little higher. So that means if you are giving me a collateral in dirhams and you want a guarantee to be in euro, there might be a fluctuation exchange risk. So I may take 110% cash margin upfront. It depends purely on business. But in general, for a liability customer, it would have to be fully secured. For a borrowing customer, it depends on the facility offer letter.
Thank you, Adnan, for all your brilliant ideas and information that you shared with us. I think we've come towards the end of the session, but the one of the most that part which is eagerly awaited by our audience is now the raffle draw. We will conduct a draw for three winners of AED 1000 Amazon gift vouchers. And just remember that the vouchers will be dispatched approximately in a week. So good luck, everybody who's been waiting for it. And I would request to start the randomizer now. Let's go. Congratulations. Our first winner for the day is Mohammad Harish. Let's go. Second one. Our second winner for the day is Sunil Nayak. Let's go to third. Is Mia Yusuf. Congratulations to all the winners. And towards the end, if you would like to know more details about ADIB Business Trade Finance, please visit our website, adib.ae business, or you can contact our contact center number 02657 8777. As we come to an end, many thanks and appreciation to all who have attended and participated in this engaging session. And I'm looking forward to having such more sessions, such more informative sessions. We will also look forward to your feedback on the survey link, and I hope to see you again in our next events. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.